but we like to tilt them because of the maintenance factor.
Why don't you need?
Sun power does not require, well, two things. They do not require direct sunlight, just so you know. So when you and I have my monitoring, I'd be glad to show you on my phone afterwards. But the Maxian cell, there's two things in this regard. This is actually a west facing. So the minute, every production value is on 5 hours of sun, because we have to account for coastal towns, right? So that's important to know too. Anytime you get a production estimate, it's always based off of 5 hours of sun. But in this case, the sun's going to come up, and this production is going to probably hit at about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and go non-stop until about 5:30 during the summer, and maybe 3:30 during the winter.
Back up to dollars. $348 for all units in that building?
No, $429 per unit.
Individual unit of the 8.
Yeah, in order to justify.
For a year?
Four.
For a month?
To the four per month
No, four units.
for 4 units.
Yeah.
In other words, you wouldn't need half of those, in my opinion.
I see a skylight in that one.
Yes.
And I'm contemplating putting 2 of the solar tubes in the church, the smallest. How does that affect the overall panel when you have just those little small guys there? That's going to stop insulation. How?
Well, I'm not understanding, I didn't understand the
The
two.
solar tube skylight
Yeah,
ends up
Oh.
being a little
got it.
ball kind
And
of.
because it comes up, it comes up.
Yeah, it comes up.
Yeah, we'd want to factor that in. So that's what's called a forecasted shading
Now, so you
implication.
actually have a hole in it that accommodates that.
Yeah, so what happens is if you have the specs on the specific unit, ideally we like to be specific. Let's say it's going to, we deal with this with chimneys all the time. But what we would do is we would take a look generally pertaining to this to be specific. As we hit western exposure, we're going to look at the shading implications facing this way and maybe eliminate the panels if there is shading. And
If
we,
you're going to shave the top of the sky, that gives me light inside, because that could then change what I get inside
And then,
too.
when you get your solar tube in, they'll take a picture of it and
Yeah.
they will go around like we do skylights.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's it. So I think,
Thank you.
thank you, John.
Just want to keep this going. Thank you very much, Rob. At this time, I'd like to have Norm King talk to us about what the board has been doing for the past 6 weeks and things we've discussed, and get into slightly more detail on it. Thanks again, Rob.
Oh, yeah, you got it.
Okay, well, you probably wonder how I got into this, so if you give me about 15 seconds, I'll tell you. In November, I bought a plug-in hybrid car, and it just seemed like a fantastic idea to put solar on the roof so that I could charge the battery on a plug-in car every night. And so, Rob and I will say a couple of other very nice gentlemen came out and talked to me, and they also talked to John, and we thought it was a fantastic idea to put solar up, so we arranged for a little presentation to the board at that time, and I believe everybody on the board of directors for Mutual 48 appreciated the presentation, and we're pretty much taken in by the fact that you can save a lot of money, you can avoid burning fossil fuels with solar, you can leave clean air to your grandchildren in terms of air that is not polluted from burning fossil fuels, and it has tremendous advantages. The more we got into it, let me back up a little bit. I'm new on the board, and so I was invited to attend a legal seminar that was given by an attorney group, Hughes, Gill, and Cochran. And so John and I were sitting there, and we had been exposed to the fact that the California Civil Rights Act, Civil Code 714 and 714.1, are very enabling. In other words, Sacramento really wants people to install solar. They're pushing it, and if you're reading the papers at all, you probably see that. And in fact, here at RossMoor with our large solar array and organization Solar Power RossMoor, they're pretty far ahead, and they've made a lot of progress on the large array. Not so much with the residential solar, though. We're still trying to get a toehold on this, and that is one of the reasons we invited you here tonight. The Civil Rights, California Solar Rights Act is very enabling, but as the attorneys in that seminar told us, what we've got is a requirement of 2/3 vote of members to approve private easements on common property. And so eventually, we're going to have to deal with that. If we approve solar on mutual 48 property, we're going to need 2/3 approval of all of the resident owners. Yes?
That's just for the approval, they don't have to buy it as well.
No, that's a good point, Bruce. Thanks for bringing that up. What you would be doing is you would be approving, in a legal document, the concept of using the roof, using it for yourself or your neighbor's using area on the roof. And at first, I will say that I learned something brand new tonight. The preliminary studies that Rob has done, we thought we would be limited. We didn't think we had enough roof space. But it turns out that Rob's engineering people have told us that we have, and that's what that slide with the coverage was meant to depict, was that it appears in their judgment that we have plenty of roof space. So that does not present the problem that we've been struggling with for the last couple of weeks. So anyway, we did form the team. Chief Ewing, Richard Bancos, Bill Van Lack, John Refford, and myself, to learn more about the solar issues and solutions. And I will say, we have a lot more to learn. There is a tremendous amount of detail on this. It's worse than the onion. It's a giant room-sized onion with little tiny layers that have to be pulled off and examined. The issue that we had in terms of roof space was how to divide it up in a fair and equitable way, and it's beginning to look more and more possible that we will be able to divide up the roof space. Now, you've got people who want to take advantage of the lower cost that would be entailed by having a single contractor come in with the cost savings that would be involved with that. There would probably be, how much do you think savings would be? Probably, I don't know, I'm not going to venture it, right? Yeah. And so it would be a way to save money, and the goal would be individual ownership on the projects in order to preserve that tax credit, which comes off your bottom line of your taxes. It's not a deduction, and I always like to say that because tax credit is so much fun to say. There are many. Yes.
Are you saying then that, because one of my thoughts is, each building has enough space on top of it to accommodate everyone within, whether it be the 4-unit or the 8-unit or the 12-unit?
That's what Rob is telling us
So we
tonight.
don't have to borrow from the.
Now, we do have peculiar situations. We've got a building or two that are in the shade. And so those buildings, I don't know whether that applies to those buildings or not, but they don't get a lot of sunshine. So those kinds of things we would have to work out.
Just a comment, that's sort of the next step out, is that we would ask whatever company that we decide, or when we go out for proposals, we'd ask each company to say to us, here's our roofs, you figure out the space on this. The engineers would look at it, we'd get a feasibility study, and they would come back and say, here's how many kilowatt hours maximum for your whole outfit we can do, and here's what we can do. So right now, those things cost us money, and we're not quite there yet.
Question on that. I've been doing some research and understand that it's probably going to be feasible to do net metering, where if entire roof is covered with solar cells, is one feed down to directly to PG&E, and then PG&E will take care of all the net metering billing.
You're absolutely right.
So
And we are going to
say
be,
I want 10% of that, I'd rather have, I'll pay for 5% of that installation.
we are going to be looking at that. And in fact, when we send out our survey, if we get a significant number of people who approve, and I want you all to go home and talk to your neighbors and tell them what a wonderful presentation this was tonight. And
really good.
yeah, try to get them interested, because that's what the committee and John and actually the board itself has been striving toward, to try to get some interest and enthusiasm going for this. I myself am very enthusiastic about it. If we get 42 people on the survey that goes out next week that say they want us to continue work on this, we'll be happy to continue work on it. Yeah, 42 manners.
Well, what would be the cost? I know that people are talking about, I'm afraid because we just had an assessment, we're gonna have to pay a lot more money. I understand
No,
that
if
we
it-
don't know yet what it will cost.
It would
But
be an
we
individual
say yes.
purchase, an individual purchase. It would not be
Required.
required, it would not be any kind
But
of,
people are going to worry about signing, yes, I want to proceed, because how much will it cost just to go?
They're not saying that, they're
No.
just saying they'll approve.
They want to find out more.
Right.
You don't have to, even if they approve it and six
I
people,
understand that.
you don't have to buy, you never have to buy it.
Nobody
No.
knows.
I know.
You
But
just
I'm
want,
afraid that
you want
people
to
will
have the
be-
information.
I'm afraid that people, from what I've heard, will be afraid to say go further because they don't know what, you know. I've heard.
The feasibility studies will tell you what you're after, the feasibility studies. Rob?
I just have two things. First off, the city requires us to provide each owner with a shade analysis. And with the benefit of shade analysis, the benefit is we're on your roof physically. And we use a tool that will shoot up at a tree, let's say, and tell us, in December 20th, is that tree gonna cause shade? And why December 20th? Because that's the shortest day of the year. So if it's not gonna create shading in December 20th, it's not gonna create shading, period. So it's called a symmetric suneye. We have to provide it to the city because they're an agent for you to verify production. And it is a step, unfortunately, it's a big to-do. We're required, there's not an added cost, it's all figured into the investment. However, it has to be done after the agreement. And then I did want to say, because there is always a median marker, if you have a $200 a month PG&E bill, and you are eliminating 75% of your bill with solar, you want to leave 25%. I did not miss this point, because tier 1 goes from 16 cents to 8 cents when you go solar, right? It's called off-peak in the evening at 8 cents. So if you want to eliminate tier 1, we'll help you with that as well, but it's going to be through LED implementation and efficiencies. And it's pretty easy to do in any home that's less than 1,500 square feet or 1,500 square feet or less.
I think it's just very important, that survey makes it very clear to everybody, they're just approving the fact that their neighbors may want to put something up.
well,
You're welcome
not
to
there's
required.
respond.
there would be eventually at least two. The survey is taking off from this evening. It'll go out to everybody. It's not legally binding. We're just trying to get an opinion. Okay. Should we go forward, or should I go back to being retired?
Basically,
So, then the other thing is that if we get to go ahead on this, we'll have to come up with a legal document, and we'll have to spend money to get that document legal, so that all of our ownership issues, and though even that document would not require you to buy it.
just to reiterate that again, the survey is only to allow the committee to continue and work. Once we get that, we'll investigate certain things, and then there will be a formal ballot that takes, and that's the binding document for the mutual, that we must have at least 42 yeses on the ballot in order to go ahead with the plans to do that once it is.
I'd just like to say, clear up your question. We're in a building that has 12 units. If all 12 people come out and say, yeah, I think solar's great, it doesn't mean all 12 people have to buy panels. 6 people could buy the panels. The rest of the people spend no money, they get no benefits, they continue to pay PG&E bills, and the 6 people who bought panels, had them installed, will benefit. They can then sell those rights to a new buyer and increase the value maybe 30,000, 40,000 on the house. However, this vote, all it does is allow the board to go forward.
I'm just saying what I've heard people grousing about. So the question is, if we say, yes, let's go ahead, we want to look into this, then we need a legal document. How is that going to be paid for? People will want to know.
The mutual pay for that.
Okay. So
But that goes on the basis of whether or not we get an affirmative vote to continue.
So then we would have the money.
Pardon?
That's right.
That's too much.
First place, I wanted to say thanks to John and Norman and Rob. And by the way, I'm a veteran of World War II, so. I think our job here is not to be convinced that we want this. The fact that we're all here probably means we can see the logic of it. Our job here is to make sure everybody that's not here gets it from our neighbors, is to, when they get around to voting, and they ask you, how do we vote? Make sure we tell them how, and cover the survey. But let me say one other thing, and that is I talked to the Homeowners Association at Trilogy. Trilogy was built by Shays after Shays built RossMoor. And Gwen's brother used to live in RossMoor and now lives in Trilogy. And I know he doesn't pay any PG&E bills, so, well, $14 average per month. So whether we're with Rob or with some other, they happen to use Solar City up there, but there are others, and that's for our committee or the board to decide. I don't think all of us need to get in that. But what we need to do is to be able to tell everybody, this is a great idea. I talked to several people in Trilogy. Their cost of electricity is from $0 up to $14. That was the highest per month that I got. And so we, as an electric, you know, we have nothing but electric here, and you know the price of electricity is going up. So this is great. I would think we'd have certainly more than a 50% response that's positive doing it, and certainly more than 2/3. I can't imagine our neighbors stopping the rest of it.
I just think we need to keep the meeting moving on because we've got some more things to go. Yes.
I was just saying, are you just gonna mail this thing out, or I think it would be better if there's a few people in each building that go around to each owner and kind of explain to them what the vote really means.
Nothing precludes you from going around without that, but we are going to mail them out. They'll be mailed out on a survey. Yes.
Could we do a letter to other people here and say that we have, you know, this number of people who feel that solar is the way to go, and that would help sway them like a political campaign, you know?
My own bias is that more value will come from your one-on-one of talking to the people in your building rather than getting testimonials for things that we really, other than our own opinion, don't know anything about. We don't know about cost. We don't know anything. What we're trying to say is, do you think we should proceed with evaluating it? And one-on-one in building will do far more than what we can do. We took a sign-in sheet. Part of the sign-in sheet value is we know who isn't here. The committee will be contacting those people directly and saying to them, here's what we have done. Bill Van Lack is filming this back here, and he's going to try to put something together that if they want to watch it, they'll be able to see what we did. But I think the point is that, as Bruce has so eloquently stated, the job here is if you agree with what we're doing, then you become, you proselytize. You go out and you say to people, we think this is good. I didn't want to use that word. It's not quite politically correct. And anyway, yes.
You're asking the people to take a survey. The first question is, what is, I understand what you're asking, the cost. You can't walk a group down a line alley and say, look at all the savings.
I think, again,
there's a front-end cost that they should be with, an estimated front.
But the point is, we're not asking them to approve or disapprove anything dealing with cost. We're saying, do you want to proceed with the idea of evaluating it? And then before the ballot comes out, there'll be another meeting. All of these things in terms of cost, we'll have proposals in front of us that said, this company says this company says this company says this. Here's what the board's recommendation is, what do you want to do, so on. And then the ballot will come out and says, go ahead with it or don't. And we have to have 42 votes in order to go ahead with it. Once we go ahead with it, it becomes cast in concrete. But the point now is we have to get to the place where we can get feasibility studies and we can get some legal opinions of how to do it. There's sticky issues here in terms of this ownership and how it's done. It's not simple, believe me. And there's no good case law in California yet that evaluates this. It's really new. We've got the name of an attorney who's dealing very effectively in that area.
Is it possible that it could be building by building? That if there's 4 people in a unit, if 2 of them want it, they...
It's not worded, the law isn't worded that way. The law is worded with all members.
All members?
Because it's common, the rooftop is common.
I've been told by 2 solar suppliers that absolutely, if you want it, you can have it. They can't stop you.
Yeah.
Well, the way that it's worded is that it's subject to the terms, the way that it's worded is subject to the current terms and conditions, but there are possible restrictions. Now the board, if the board approves it, say the board approved your individual solar, somebody could come along and the board would be liable because they did not have 67% of the approvals. On the other hand, if we don't have 67% of the approvals, somebody could come along and the opposite could occur. The board would be liable for either providing it or not providing it. So really, when it boils down to, this boils down to a real case of frying pan in the fire, like my grandma used to say. So we really need you to help us understand whether you want us to pursue it, or do we rely on the fact that we don't have a 67% approval rating, and there's nothing we can do.
Understand your preference.
Okay, yes.
Since I'm new, is Golden Rain working on a similar proposal?
Golden Rain is dealing with a solar farm, an array, up to, that will do only the Golden Rain responsible things, the clubhouses, the swimming pools, this building, the Creekside complex and all that, and that's a totally separate issue. But there's significant savings in going, and I think that's going to go forward very rapidly. Yes.
If I understood your presentation correctly, when you advertise figures that these will pay for themselves in 5 to 6 years, is that correct?
Your return on investment, you take your monthly electric bill times 12 and add 10% per year, and after 6 years, it should have paid for itself.
So in other words, it's an investment.
It is. Two things about the investment. Number one, there's an immediate investment for us. Now, all of us are older, and we sit down and say, well, you know, I may not be here 6 years from now, so I'm, quote, losing money. My answer to that is that you're not losing money, because if your heirs take over your unit and sell it, they're gonna get all that money back, which is, if you kept it in the bank, they would get it anyway when you die. So you're doing something that does two things. One is it helps the mutual, it helps the environment, it helps all of those things. It helps you immediately reduce your bills down. But if you die before you got your return on investment, then your heirs get it. It's a win-win.
More so than just one-on-one, because solar is going to be throughout this valley, and being able to sell units that are having solar protection for raising above.
Well, there's no question that the realtors are gonna love us if we get solar. There's no question. Yes.
Other projects have been done similar to this. What is the approximate cost? Are we looking at $10? Are we looking at $10,000?
To John's point, if you take your personal resident usage, you like to get an annual history, ideally 14 months, and that's how we size your system up. So the answer really can't be blanketed. It is fair to say, however, that being said, California Solar Initiative, and I can send anybody this information as well. It's ca.gov, and it shows CSI, easy to remember, stands for California Solar Initiative. If you go there, you can, it's basically there to inform and educate the general public. So if your average bill is $200, average bill is $200 a month, your bill with 75% of the solar being prescribed for your usage, your bill should go down to zero, and your monthly payment roughly will be about $120 to $125, and you protected yourself from any future increases. I mean, that's simplified very much so, but that's fair to say it's going to be involved.
How much do we, know, I think it's, how much do we pay out to get that?
Zero. No.
Yeah, zero if you're financing, I'm sorry, zero if you're financing, but this area has programs called a PACE program available too. So, yeah, there's a lot of different programs.
One of the things that we will be asking you, and it may come out, we haven't finalized the survey form, we wanted to wait and hear what a lot of your questions were. But one of the things that we may be asking is that you go to PHE&E's site and get a copy of your last 12 months, and we may collect those and give that to the solar companies when they look at all of our bills. Like Norm's is significantly less than mine. For me, they surveyed my unit and said I need to have 15 panels to cover what I've been doing. Norm only need, what was your panels, 10? How many panels did they approve?
Came up with
10 panels for Norm, but I needed 15.
How many panels do you need for your car?
So I don't want to get, we're really kind of doing things, and it'll be past everybody's bedtime soon. Norm is done. Chief, where are you, Chief? Chief, we've asked Chief to talk a little bit about the importance. I think we've covered a lot of it already, but we'll let him talk. He talks a little slow, so be careful.
Thank you. And thank you for being here. I think it's an important step to take to come out here and show your interest. And that's what we're asking you to do as you leave here this evening, is to go to your neighbors and present the opportunity for them to respond to a survey, which will allow us to go ahead and look further in to answering all the questions that come up. We can't answer all the questions tonight because all the questions haven't been asked. But given the opportunity to go ahead, where a significant number of people respond to the survey positively, then the committee will go ahead and proceed along the path that's been indicated tonight by approaching solar companies, getting feasibility studies, and basically gathering all the information necessary for people to get answers. So I frequently ask questions, many of which have come up tonight, So I think that's my message. And the word evangelist came up. Go out and become an evangelist within your unit. Just to suggest, not that they sign their life away, just that they show an interest in having solar, and not that they would have to be an investor in solar. The whole idea is to allow solar to be implemented on our roofs, which is a common area. So we have to give permission for that. And 2/3 of the residents ultimately will have to do that. That's pretty much all I have to say. But I did want to recognize that we have at least one member here from Solar Powered RossMoor, and that is the Secretary of Solar Powered RossMoor, and that's Ann Foreman. She's sitting in the back. And Ann has been extremely diligent in informing the members of Solar Powered RossMoor about the activities. Not all of us have been at every meeting, but there are a number of committees at Solar Powered RossMoor where people are involved in not only solar, but also water conservation, and other things that have to do with the general environmental aspects of being in RossMoor. But believe me, the committee that is engaging the Golden Rain Foundation in installing a solar array in RossMoor to take care of the needs of the common area buildings, such as the event center, the fitness center, the maintenance yard, and so forth. RossMoor Golden Rain Foundation spends approximately $600,000 a year in electricity charging. So if you think of that as you might be able to benefit on your own from having a solar installation, I hope that'll give you incentive to go out there and talk up the survey. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, we're going to have a Q&A, but I think we've already done most of the Q&A. And so I just want to again reiterate my thanks to all of you who did come out tonight, and I hope it was informative for you and to let you specifically know what the committee needs from you in order to move forward. Once we get the survey completed, we'll have the survey completed probably by Friday, and we'll be getting it into the mail either Friday or Monday, one way or the other. We'll have a date that we need to get it back by. It'll be a pre-addressed envelope that'll come back to us.
It'll be at least a couple of weeks because we're going to be out of town for a week.
Pardon?
We're going to be out of town for a week. It's going to be at least 2 weeks to get the responses back.
I don't know the answer to that, but we'll take it into consideration when we just put you down as an affirmative vote. And we have your proxy that's an affirmative vote.
That's my question. Is everybody for more or less for the affirmative of it that's in the room now going forward with this? Is there any?
His question was, does everybody in the room here now feel that we should go ahead? You don't need to be intimidated, but if you don't put your hand up, you may not be invited back. Okay, so the survey will be coming out. We'll get the information back. The committee wants to, of course, if we get approval, we've already laid out some plans of things we want to proceed with right away and get started. And our hope, and part of that's being driven by the 2016 expiration and so on. It's exciting, and I think we can probably do it. I was really happy to hear Rob say tonight that he thinks we've got enough roof capacity for everybody. If that's confirmed by all of our engineers and the structure and everything else, then that eliminates the biggest problem that I've been faced with all along, was how to equitably distribute whatever we had available. And that's a big question. Yes, Holly?
Now, if, well, say one of the 12 units decides, say only 8 of them decide, what happens a year later when they hear all this wonderful stuff going on, they want to add? Is that easy to add to it? All the infrastructure is there, all they need is the panels?
Yeah, they're very easy. because each system has its own inverter attached to your meter. So it's very, very inclusive to the resident. So each resident would have their own system.
And down the road, when these fail, is it just a matter of replacing the failed panels 25, 30 years out?
Well, that's.
Then you have the same cost over again, or is it?
You won't have that, Holly.
I know.
I hate to be the bearer of tidings, but you won't be here to do that.
My 40-year-old son is looking into this.
To be specific, after 25 years, then yeah, anything that happens to the panels. So within the 25 years, it's all taken care of, and the 26th year, it would be.
But it's like buying the whole thing new again, or is it just replacing the panels?
Well, there's two things actually that may be important here. The warranty is transferable.
Yeah.
So the system and the warranty are transferable from resident to resident.
If there's a resale, that's transferable to the new owner, so there's no.
Yeah, exactly, inclusive to the address and the meter number, specifically the net meter number.
Right.
The technology was so changed.
Okay, I just, again,
Have it on your umbrella.
I again want to thank you, and I hope you all noticed that there was no collection plate passed today. So you can go out and evangelize all you like. Thank you for your attendance, and good night.